or bad news. And in some cases, you want to do something about it right then and there, so you're going to have a feedback loop, a couple hundred milliseconds ideally, right back to the sensor. Maybe this is to put an ad on the web page, or maybe this is to stop a cyber transaction from escaping the enterprise. But that would be data finds data, and relevance is finding the sensor. So here comes another piece of data, and it lands here, and then you decide only after it lands, is this important and what should we do about it? And in this case, we're going to direct it to a human's attention. Like, oh, a human would need to know about this. You have to be careful, you don't want to overwhelm humans. But I call this flow here, data finds data, relevance finds you. So the left part of the screen is sense and respond. It's like organizations being awake. It says every piece of data that lands in the enterprise, it just learned something. Every piece of data that lands in the enterprise is the question. I think, by the way, a lot of what organizations are doing is they collect the data and let it land, and then they run some batch job at the end of the week to figure out what it all means. So on the right side here is explore and reflect. And I mean deeply reflect. And this, what you're doing is you're drawing on stuff that you've already assembled, and now you're deeply thinking about it. You know, when you're sitting on the couch at home at the end of the day, and you're not watching TV, and you're not reading email, and you're only thinking about what you know, does anybody still do that? That's what you were just thinking, isn't it? You're just like, no one still does that. I can tell. Okay. But even while I've been talking to you, there'd be times where you're listening and then there's a moment you blank me out, and then you're having a little deep reflective moment to go, that relates to blah, blah, blah. You're actually doing a batch data mining job on yourself, I now believe. I didn't realize how important deep reflection was until I did my second puzzle project. But anyway, so in deep reflection, you might discover patterns. When you discover patterns, you might put a human in the loop there to say, is this pattern worth noticing? And if the pattern's worth noticing, you might publish it and say, keep an eye out for it. So I'm just going to name a couple things we got at IBM so you can see where different things fit. We have something called infosphere streams, which kind of connects sensors to where you connect the data. If you see things like these, this would be more what I think about as deep reflection. I think about Cognos, I think about more about on the user side. When I think about the decide, I think about this infosphere streams or iLogs. I'm doing something to help SPSS do this type of data integration in the center. And my new next-gen technology I'm going to call sense making. And it's about fusing very diverse data together in real time for sub 200 millisecond sense and respond. But I also see organizations posting things to traditional information management systems for case management, document management, and data warehousing. But this is kind of my own personal reconciled view. I hand drew those little charts there. But that's how I think about organizations being able to do sense and respond and then being able to deeply reflect and feedback loops. A few big data trends. I think the value of data to an organization is proportional to its context. So if an organization has 50 piles of data and they have the blue puzzle pieces over there and the green puzzle pieces over there, I think it's being denied greater value. And this graph says that if you have a batch process that gives you a really smart answer at the end of every week and the business users love the answer, it's not going to be very long before the business user says, why did I have to wait for the end of the week? And I see a lot of organizations these days trying to solve every problem with Hadoop and MapReduce and batch processes. And there are some cases where I think that's absolutely ideal and the only way to go. But I think when you can build real-time streaming processes, you should. And by the way, a streaming process can eat batch data all day long. We are all streaming engines, and when you read a book, you're just ingesting a batch. So a few closing thoughts. I think the most competitive organizations are going to make sense of what they're observing while they're observing it, so they can do something about it while it's happening. And I think you want to wish this on the enemy, this enterprise amnesia. I think the way that organizations are going to get smarter is going to be doing a better job of weaving their data together first. I have a few blog posts that might be of interest. I blog outside of IBM, so they're not, nobody reviews them, and they're not salesy. I could do some questions now, or I could take a few minutes and tell you about what I'm building secretly. Kind of secret, not really secretly anymore, but I built it for 2.5 years before I typed and talked about it publicly. Its code name is G2. So we could do, what do you want to do? You want to hear 5 more minutes of what I'm cooking up now in the lab? Or am I talking too fast? Okay. I'm barely alive. I'm usually a little more with it. Okay, we'll come back and do questions in a second. So what happened is I've been working for IBM for maybe 4 years, and another executive came and said to me, you know, if you had a big idea around here, we'd fund it. I'm like, you're kidding. Cool. So I said, knowing what I know now, here's what I built. And I pitched this to my boss. And my boss at the time was running about a $3 billion part of IBM. And I said, this is what I would invent next. And IBM's like, you build this for us? My venture capital friends are still pissed off. They're like, why didn't you quit and build it for us and you? And the answer is, it's kind of fun to work for a company that has such a big platform globally. They spend $6 billion a year in just R&D. So I was talking to my boss on the phone, and he goes, well, how much to build this? And I'm thinking, how do you even build something for IBM? Because I'm used to a small SWAT team. Like, that's my whole life, right? So I wish I could have seen him, because I'm on the phone, I'm like, he goes, how much? And I'm like, 50 million. He'd probably swallow, you know? Because that's a big number. But he paused for a minute, and he says, can you build it with 6 people? And I thought, 6 people? I said, well, only if I can run it like a czar, you know, not a democracy. Only if I can handpick them. And then he said, agreed. And then he only let me hire 2. Like, he agreed, and I started, and then I got a handpicked one. Of the 100 systems I've built over the years, I've built 70 with this guy. We've slept on floors, eaten dry top ramen. I know what kind of beetles he eats. Him. I picked him first. And the other guy, for the last 6 or 7 years, he's been building a part of my systems that can change their mind about the past. That's not trivial, to do that in a sub-second. So I picked the 2 of them, and then they didn't let me hire anybody else. Bastards. So we ran it secretly for 2.5 years. But the mission statement is, I want to evaluate each new observation against the previous. So it's like a new puzzle piece. How does it fit in the puzzle? Determine after it lands and after it changes the shape of the puzzle if it's good news or bad news. Should you sell it or shoot it with a laser from space? And then delivering actionable intelligence fast enough to do something about it while it is still happening. But to do this at significant scale, designed for cloud compute. Designed for, when I say cloud, I mean I mean grid. Designed for, 10,000 nodes isn't enough, go to 100,000 nodes, that's what I mean. And so the journey, a lot of people are building algorithms to try to study just the red puzzle pieces or just the green puzzle pieces. And I say there's a very different kind of algorithm that first integrates the data. And the better the job you do there, the more easy it is to find things irrelevant. So the G2, which is the code name for my thing, it kind of lives right here. It's about the high-speed, multi-data source, structured, unstructured, geospatial, biometric, biographic, fusion. What about this? These are just some of the things that are kind of more unique about it. There's no such thing as a single version of truth. It's really designed to keep ambiguity and diversity in the data. Different dates of birth, different national ID numbers for the same person, misspellings. I've designed it. My prior work's been about people and organizations. And this new method allows you to do locations of products. I'm even doing some work with asteroids, which is kind of exciting. You know why it's exciting, these asteroids, is because it turns out we keep all of our stuff on Earth. This is where we keep our stuff. Okay, that's a joke. And then I've been thinking about more exotic features, So before I've been thinking about names and addresses and phones, but now I'm thinking about geographic locations and arcs, about how things move. A couple of crazy things that it does is, in the old days, if my systems were getting confused, I'd have to run some batch process to go find records, chunks of records that went nuts. But now it kind of can notice on its own. So it actually makes a note to itself. It goes, it's like a note to self. It's like taking a Post-it note and going, I better remember this. But it actually sends a piece of data back in the front pipe, so it attaches to that part of the puzzle and says, I'm a bit confused about this. So any minute in time, it knows how confused it is. In fact, if you turned a data source on that had a bunch of junk in it, you start making it really confused, it actually could notice and go, man, that data source is junk. Maybe turn it off. And then I've got this thing about geospatial reasoning. It has a better sense of here and now, where things are and how they relate to each other in space and time. If you're reading a book about the 1906 fire in San Francisco, you're not yelling out to the wife, put water on the roof and fill up the bathtub, because that ain't about here and now. So I'm using things called geohashes, which is an open source way to generalize lat longs to space. And I'm doing a lot of work with baking more privacy features in, So when it gets used by governments or law enforcement, it can be used in ways that are safer for the rest of us. I'll give you one example of a privacy by design. It's called self-correcting false positive. Here, if you had a rule that said you could bind two people if they had the same name and same cell phone number, if you said that was a rule and you bound those together, that'd be fine until this record shows up. This record is the same except it says senior, not junior. And what this record, when this shows up, it actually tells you that record number 2 probably didn't belong there because of the driver's license number. And a self-correcting false positive means the moment record 3 arrives, record 2 finds a new home as fast as puzzle piece 3 arrived. So I think about it like this. For an organization, they have customer-facing systems, they have back-of-the-house accounting systems, they have fraud and data mining systems, they have this system, that system, and then what's in the middle? That's white space. I'm thinking about sense making as what I'm doing next, which is how do you weave all this data together for high-quality sense and respond. Anyway, that's kind of what I'm up to now. Back to my little questions chart. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather. But I'm still standing. Anybody have any burning questions? Want to ask me about Las Vegas? Yes, sir.
So you're analyzing data in motion. You're analyzing data.
Yeah, but no window. Yeah, the question is, am I analyzing data in motion? Yes, but with not a window. A lot of the data in motion analyzes the transaction against a cache on that node, against a window of maybe the last 10,000 transactions or the last 10 minutes. This is windowless. This means you're evaluating the transaction in motion against every single puzzle piece you've ever seen. And not only are you analyzing it against it, you're letting it help reshape it. And then remembering it how it reshaped it. So I sometimes refer to this as incremental context accumulation. Because my principle now is, you can't relate a transaction to what you have remembered from the past. How can you do a good job determining if the transaction is important or not? And just because that transaction lands, you would want to know 3 minutes later that the transaction existed and where it fit. And by the way, federated search, you can't do this with federated search. I have a blog post called When Federated Search Bites. I was thinking of the word sucks, but it was my blog, so I just used the word bites. And I have a $25,000 reward on there if somebody can figure out, it'll explain how to fix it for this problem. I can go into that more, but I think there's a second question. Yeah.
So all this sounds like total information awareness, a government project. So the entity is a person all the time, or this is your primary focus?
Or an asteroid.
Or asteroid.
Asteroids are a little more interesting since there's actually more of them, and they're really dangerous.
So is this system ready to scale to something like 6 billion entities or more?
Well, hopefully I need it to do more, because I'm not trying to do humans per se. Like if you're trying to manage asteroids or cyber transactions, the numbers are really significantly larger. If you're trying to do work in maritime awareness, just how ships move, produce data, long data, far exceeds human counts. But if your question, I'll go to your question though, is I worry a lot about misuse of technology, and I spend a lot of time advising governments and sitting on these policy groups, privacy groups, to figure out when the governments are abusing their power. And one of the things that I've been standing up for is something called an immutable or a tamper-resistant audit log. It's when you turn a system on, can you record how the users have used it in a way where even the DBA can't change the past? In other words, it like etches in stone the way the system is used. Because if you have, whether it's law enforcement, it's local level or national level, if the system's being misused, you'd want to record it in a way where somebody else could come along and look at it, oversight, to see if it was being used properly. And one of the challenges is a lot of organizations, I've found this as trying to sell privacy-enhancing technology, is a lot of organizations actually won't spend money on privacy-enhancing technology. Because they say, hey, we trust ourselves. Let's just get a few more CPUs.
Or maybe they don't want privacy, this kind of technology.
So what I've done with my sense-making engine is I've actually put a tamper-resistant audit log. We have a product in IBM called Guardian that does this. And I'm not charging anybody extra for it. When you buy the sense-making engine, it actually is built in. You can't check it off the list and not buy it. So that's one example of what's called privacy. I didn't make the term privacy by design up, but I've been trying to bake as many things in so that, when it gets used by insurance companies, they could use it rightly or wrongly. When it gets used by governments, they could use it rightly or wrongly. The challenge you have with governments is they can take our freedoms away. So we just have to be extra careful about that. So anyway, there's a lot of things about transparency and having governments be really clear about what data they're collecting and why, and creating more transparent processes. So I've been baking in a variety of things. I found a watch list in the US, by the way. Imagine this. There was a watch list where they had some records on the watch list, but they forgot who gave them the records or why. Can you imagine having a watch list with somebody's name on it, but you don't know who told you or why? That's crazy, right? So one of the things that is a privacy by design principle is full attribution. It means every single record knows where it came from. And the work I'm doing, you can't even give it a record that doesn't know where it came from. And what that means is if somebody changes a record off of a watch list, how long do you think it should take to take them out of the system to take them off the list? Like, I think it should be sub 200 milliseconds, right? So anyway, on my blog, I have a whole thread on privacy and the work I'm doing there. I'm also trying to raise global awareness on you and your cell phone about how you move. That is going to produce unbelievable amounts of geospatial intelligence that can be used to optimize your life and can also be used in other ways. So I have a blog post about that and why they're called analytic superfood. You have another question?
So why IBM and not Google or someone else which has all this data for mobiles and searches and all that?
Well, I guess how did I get at IBM? When my CEO and chairman came to me, they proposed IBM. We had a couple of other companies that wanted to buy us, but I kind of thought IBM would be the most fun. I'm enjoying the Smarter Planet thing, figuring out how to optimize Earth resources. Like, we're going to run out of resources, so anything you can do that reduces our energy consumption per human is good. Anything we can do to maximize our natural resources and not cook our planet at the same time, so I kind of like that. I am fascinated by big data, but I really love the job I have. I have big companies reach out to try to hire me, and I don't even get to the point where they tell me how much. I say I'm not interested. Like, that's how much I actually like my job. Yeah.
What kind of hardware are you running it on? GPU systems?
I'm hoping to test my G2 thing on what it runs like on that kind of a grid environment. All my current generation stuff runs on Red Hat Linux or AIX, or you get to about a terabyte or two on a Windows box, but all the big stuff's running on Linux, I think. Linux or AIX. But definitely solid state. We have 2 customers now, each with 100 terabytes of solid state, and that's for metadata. So one of them, we maxed out the I/O on 20 terabytes of solid state, which is kind of exciting from a geeky thing, right? To have 20 terabytes of direct attached solid state and then have no more I/O. You're like, holy crap. That's cool. Give it more. I'm somewhat agnostic, to tell you the truth, on the hardware front. I'm doing something now to make my G2 technology embedded inside of SPSS, which is a statistical mining tool. I can't give you any dates, but in the lab I'm actually integrating there. And SPSS runs on everything. You run on Solaris, you run on HPUX. So.
Okay, so when do we get rid of spam?
When what?
When do we get rid of spam? Because that's a huge data set.
When do we get, wait, what? Just a little slower.
When do we get rid of spam?
Oh, I did a little blurb about this out there that was like misunderstood. I did a comment about how you might sign up for a service in the future that is designed to give you ads. And the question is, why would you do that? And I think what's going to happen is the quality, when you do context accumulation, the quality of the predictions are so much better that you would sign up for something if it only talked to you once a week or 3 times a week, but every single thing it sent you was genius. That saved your time or saved you money. I don't know what's going to get rid of actual spam where somebody that is not your friend decides to send something to you. I'll tell you the thing to worry about, though, on the cyber front is mass spear phishing. I think what's going to happen is the quality of predictions is going to get so good that an organization today, everyone knows spear phishing, where somebody creates an email, but it's so perfect for you that you're going to open the document and you just open something you shouldn't. So that's spear phishing. Somebody just selected you really well. Like they named this conference that you were in today, and it comes from Jeff Jonas, but you've never seen my email, you know, blah, blah, blah. You might open it. So today, that kind of spear phishing takes a human a lot of personal attention. But I think what we're going to see in the future, because a lot of organized crime groups have are making so much money, and there's so much investment, I think we're going to see machines doing mass spear phishing, and they'll send out 1 million emails by a machine, and they'll be so good, half the people will click the button. And that means all the protections that we put in place to protect an organization. How can you protect the organization when half the people open the front door up and say, come on in? I probably didn't help you with your question, but I feel better.
So, as a matter of fact, you said that you're going to use this system the other way. Because instead of protecting from spam, you can create better spam.
Well, you wouldn't call it spam then, right? But I think what's happening is everybody wants to optimize their life. And companies are trying to optimize their services. And by the way, on a surveillance society, a crazy thing I've come to realize is that a surveillance society is inevitable and irreversible, and the craziest thing of all is you're doing it. Because who's reading the terms of use when you sign up for the free email? How many of you read, before you sign up for your free email, how many of you read the terms of use? 1. Like, you read some of these, I'm kidding you not. It says right in there, it says that the data is theirs, and if you decide to delete your account and leave, they get to keep your data anyway. Right? And geolocation services on your phone. People are gobbling these so I can find my damn Starbucks. So anyway, the question is I think we have to raise citizens' awareness, and I think more transparency on governments, and transparency on businesses and what they're doing with data is all good. And I think everybody's trying to be competitive, and that's individuals and companies and governments. And that's the trend. And the question is, can we do it well? Can we do it, efficiently? And can we do it in ways that we're proud of later? So I encourage you to Google privacy by design and kind of see what's going on in that space. I think anytime engineers can be thinking about privacy and civil liberty protections early on and bake things in. We have choices when we go build systems to turn left to right. And sometimes, I've spent years not being in the privacy conversation. I wouldn't have known. But now that I'm paying attention, there's times you can turn left to right. Now I know to take the right turn. I think we're out of time now. Am I done?
O singură întrebare am avut.
One more?
Motion data mining is a little bit different by classical BI solution because the algorithm it's a little bit changed because it's necessary real-time data mining. You think that the future version of SPSS will include the algorithms for...
Are you saying real-time detection, or are you saying motion mining?
Real-time.
Oh, real-time. I can't tell you when, and the proper answer is it could be never. But I'll tell you that I'm working in the lab on something that would allow really just without making $250,000 investments, just buying the technology you can buy today that's actually, is affordable to the smaller enterprise. I'm working in the lab today on how to make something available so organizations can do a better job counting with SPSS. So it's my personal goal to make that available sooner, not later, but I can't move the whole big beast because it's a giant beast.
Mulțumim foarte mult lui Jeff Jonas. Thank you very much for your presentation.